Good afternoon and welcome back to this next session. This last hour, if you were with us with Doug Tallamy, was really packed. We're going to be changing um, our pace a little with our next presentation, but I wanted to take just a minute to talk about the Arthur Morgan Institute for Community Solutions. I'm Denny Eagleson, and I'm on the planning committee for this conference. And we realized maybe in February that this conference was going to happen 3 days after the election. And we had no idea what kind of psychic and emotional space we were all going to be in at this time. But one of the things that I value so much about community solutions is that it is a place that offers information, inspiration, vision for moving forward, no matter what the situation is. So we are in a state of suspended animation at this point in terms of the election, dealing with all kinds of threats in terms of climate change or whatever. But this organization is always looking for ways to invite people in and to help us engage with really positive action. So if you are just joining Community Solutions for this conference, I would like to invite you to go to the website. There is a place where you can sign up to be on the email list. You could become a member, and there's a place where you could donate. And if you are so inspired, we would appreciate any donations that you make. They help us support the programming that we're doing. So welcome back for this afternoon. I am going to be introducing Nicole Manieri, who's actually a neighbor who lives down the road from me. She is a co-founder of Heartbeat Learning Gardens, and she presents seasonal classes on plant-based wellness, wild weeds, song medicine, and dream tending. She's committed to a practice in the healing intersection of personal, social, and ecological justice. This afternoon, Nicole is going to be sharing her passion for Southern Italy rhythms and song. So let us welcome Nicole Manieri.
There we go. Wow. Well, hi, everyone. Like Denny said, I'm Nicole, and I am really grateful to be invited to be here today. And some of what I'm sharing has shape-shifted from my original, but not that much. And so, as Denny said, I'm part of Heartbeat Learning Gardens. We're a 4-acre family farm, and we recently transitioned into a nonprofit. We've been growing food for this community for 15 years, and we have a mosaic of learning gardens, a pollinator garden, herbal medicine garden, vegetable gardens, a bee yard, and chickens. And it's surrounded and in the context of a nature preserve that our son Gabriel started to protect and give sanctuary to the wildlife. So I also have my own practice of mandala arts, of supporting folks one-on-one through deep personal change. So those are two parts of me. So in this time that I have with you, the frame that I'm really entering into is more of an internal gaze. It's the place of our interior ecology and our interior wild spaces, and how we build pathways of regeneration and resiliency and reclamation and retrieval, the returning home and the return journey to our hearts and to our bodies. And that's where I'm really focusing today, and these interior gardens of how we tend them. So I'm going to be really sharing some of my story of how I arrived to even talk about this. And then I'm going to be sharing some of the songs and rhythms, like Denny mentioned, of my healing journey and of my ancestral expression. So my mom my mother line comes from Sicily. My grandmother was pregnant with my mom when they came on the boat through Ellis Island to America and settled in an Italian community in upstate New York. So this is Maria and Augustino, and they came over here in 1947. And my father's side comes from Poland, and this is Adele and Francis, and they came in the mid-1920s. And so those are the ancestors for me that really brought our family line story to these soils. And so I'm here continuing that storyline and learning how to do that in a way that feels good to me and right to me. So when I was about 6, we moved to Ohio, and I've really been here most of my years. I moved away for a little while, but that also meant leaving extended family community and leaving really cultural, ethnic communities of upstate New York and arriving here. And our family was a little lost. There was loss at that transition, and entering into survival mode and entering into really mother-father culture of empire being the guiding influence in my life in the suburbs. And I existed with this cultural grief that I just felt that what this was not, didn't sit right with me, that somehow it was an assault to my mind, to my heart, to my spirit, to my body. And so in college, I studied cultural anthropology to really try to get outside of the box of what's going on here and really found like, yeah, that makes sense. And that makes sense. What I'm in does not make sense. And at that time, I studied the story of colonization and the tragedy of that. And I was also deeply involved with the Miami Valley Council for Native Americans during that time, and learning a lot from their very personal stories of the story of colonization. And my spirit was really mentored and nurtured in that time by some of the folks of the council. And so I'm deeply grateful to them. And yet still, it wasn't my culture, even though I found refuge in their ways of having traditional ways of how to be in relationship to life. And that cultural grief, that need, that longing to be of a place, of a people, and to have a clarity of a cultural container that lets me know how to be in relationship in a way that is sacred, was really a driving force in my life and how I've shaped my life and how I've moved in my life. So in 2005, I moved to Yellow Springs and I worked at Antioch College at the Center for Community Learning, which later became the Coretta Scott King Center. And right at the tail end of that, I became pregnant and the school closed and I went off to become a mother and enter into building my life. And that was entering in around 2007. And I can see now that that was actually a point when I entered into a descent in my own journey, and that the activism that I was doing in college was now coming to me and landing in me in a different way, in that I was really seeing my own fragmentation and how I had effectively been colonized, that the colonization process was alive in me and the domestication process was alive in me, and that for the most part, I was effectively living from here up. And that I actually didn't know what to do with my feelings. I probably wasn't experiencing very many sensations of my body. They weren't effectively registered as meaningful. I suspected that this intelligence and this intelligence and this intelligence was meaningful, but I did not know how the mechanics of that worked. There was a lot of information. I didn't know what to do with it. It was a big mess. It felt out of control. And I had no cultural guidance around what to do with that and how to feel whole or how to feel. And I didn't have pathways established there, pathways of communication. So around that time in 2007 is also when I met a peer group that are my soul sisters, and they still are to this day. And the descent was possible because of that container, because we were all willing to be in the discovery process of the vulnerability and the boldness and the courage that it took to choose to descend, to say, how do I get from primarily operating from here, or actually maybe over here or over here, because it was a dissociated, fragmented state, and how do I enter into the return journey down and in to my heart and to my body. So a lot of my healing journey and my descent journey happened in the context of peer support and community. And many folks do it through a therapeutic relationship, and I have also done that too, and they're both very valuable in their own ways. And I can just say that my primary journey was really in the context of peer-led support groups. And so it was also in the context of being a woman and having a body that has its own ways of knowing, a body that I wanted to know those pathways of knowing. I wanted to know those rights, because my feminine body really directly interfaces with life and death and rebirth processes in a regular way. And none of us had an intact culture that could tell us how to be in relationship with that in a way that felt whole, in a way that felt reverent and integrated. And so all of us, brave souls, entered in from that longing and that need and that grief of not having that. And so we learned to listen deeply. We learned to feel deeply, to pray deeply, and to let the pathways of knowing, let the rights and the practices and the ways of being together and with the earth of this place that we found ourselves start to emerge from within us and amongst us, and from what was coming through in our own self-discovery and the threads that we had in common, and making sense of that, really entering into the dark and feeling our way through what we could learn to hear inside with each other. And so we would weave with our soul's journey, with the spring and the summer and the fall and the winter, and how what we were experiencing was reflected in the world around us, and we would weave that together. And this was also a process of really building capacity, because to descend back in and return to inhabit the heart and inhabit the body necessarily means that you're going to have to see and bear witness and feel what the places and the reasons that you left, why you couldn't stay, why it was so uncomfortable or so painful to be there that you needed to dissociate. And dissociation is a very wise mechanism of the nervous system to survive really intolerable spaces. And so I want that to be, it's really important as a mechanism. And to effectively move out of that, to enter in, there has to be enough sense of safety and enough sense of resource to be willing to feel and bear witness and companion those places into a new story of wholeness, and into gathering those pieces and finding our way back into inhabiting ourselves. So we became that for each other, that safety and that resource, and so we could keep going deeper and keep going deeper. And part of what really starts to happen when I would move into deeper places of, for instance, my own grief, it started to occur to me like, wow, this grief is huge. And I don't know how within my little body, within my life, I could have this much grief gather in one lifetime. And I started to, through these processes, really feel the way that I am actually a continuum of a storyline, and that my ancestors gave me their stories of resilience, and they also gave me their unhealed storylines, and that the fragmentation I experienced really was a pattern that began farther back. And part of my work of retrieval and of reclamation wasn't just for me, but it was for my, that it was a part of my ancestral work. And I really started to feel that as I heal, that it reaches out backwards and forwards, and that there's a fabric in that. And as I could see that my personal healing and reclamation was actually a reclamation and healing and lineage, I could also see that my ancestral story happened within a cultural context, and bringing this reclamation back to a cultural healing and back to a human story. So it kept getting bigger in this feeling and knowing that as I do that, that I'm contributing to a larger fabric of restoring a story into wholeness, a story into liberation, a story into reweaving my parts and our parts. So some of us have been inside of lineages that have been in abusive empire for longer than others of us. And this force really seeks control through fragmentation and through shaming and blaming. And so every act of reweaving is a part and a contribution, I feel, to a larger reweaving inside of the body of humanity. And so I come here in that belief, in that worldview, in that being the truth of my experience. And with that, with the ability and capacity to keep doing this work, which is over a lifetime, and to more and more frequently and consistently find ways to inhabit my heart and come from my heart, I'm seeing some notes happening. Oh, is there disconnection or something? Okay, I'll just keep going until you give me a message. It's also my worldview that our heart is very deeply woven with the heart of Mother Earth. And as we can more fully exist inside of it and clear the residue of the shame and the resentment that can harden the soils or compact the soils or block the flow of that inner spring, as we can bring breath there and bring movement there, that connecting to that heart and our own very sweet heart's desire, that the goal is to be in that desire that is in alignment with the heart of Mother Earth, and from that place be able to create together. So from 2007 to 2017, I feel like I was really, that was the center of my life, this work, that depth work in community, in companioning myself and other women especially. And that was my devotional path. And it felt like the dark forest was kind of my stomping grounds. And some of the modalities that we worked with were shadow work, somatic trauma work, and a lot of rhythm and song and movement inside of circle. A lot of sound space, dreaming, praying, ceremony. These were the prime technologies and methodologies that we worked with on a weekly basis. and supported each other with. It's not done, but life for me really changed in 2017. A chapter ended, and I entered into a life transition. So what I'm sharing is these pathways of regeneration and resilience and renewal that have happened for me, and how I've approached that from an internal gaze, from my internal ecologies of reawakening some of the ancient knowing of my body and the intuitions of my heart, and the continual return of that. And in particular, rhythm and song and circle and movement, no matter where your ancestors are from on the planet, we all have this in our cultural heritage. They were different songs, but they were all very connected as a common technology that we use as sound space and rhythm space and body space to really effectively metabolize and integrate the very traumatic and ecstatic experiences of living on this planet and loving on this planet. So I'm going to step into that sort of, maybe I spoke fast, I don't know, but that's a bit of a sharing of how I arrive in this moment. And now I'm going to just share some songs and a little bit of words around, or stories or sharings before each song that have been an important part of my journey. You know, it's a really strange not to be live with you and to see you all. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can't unmute myself. The host has to unmute me.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So the first song that I'm going to share is a song that I wrote at the very beginning of trying to build a healing practice. And it was a 24-year-old me. And it was before I entered into that descent. And she had no idea what was around the corner at that time. But this song is really a song from the heart. And it is a song that I would play before I would see a client, before they would even get there, just to get myself in this space that I wanted to be in to support someone. How's that sound? Can someone give me a...
Could be a little bit louder.
Okay. In this sacred space, there is love. In this sacred space, you are loved. In this sacred space, I am loved. In this sacred space, we are loved. No matter where you, matter where you go, you come from, all the luggage that you hold, your heavy turns to light here, and your darkest truth to gold. 'Cause in this sacred space, your light shines. In this sacred space, my light shines. In this sacred space, our light shines. In this sacred space, oh how we shine. Unafraid we stand here, permission to be free, perfectly imperfect. gravity, 'cause in this sacred space, you are whole. In this sacred space, I am whole. In this sacred space, we are whole. In this sacred space, there's miracles. In this sacred space, there is love. In this sacred space, you are loved. In this sacred space, we are loved. In this sacred space, we are loved. An oldie but a goodie. So in 2017 is really when a chapter closed for me and a life transition occurred. And in that time, you know, some of even what we were doing found its own limitations for me, and I needed to go inward again. And it was at that time that synchronicity and my own heart's desire led me to be guardianship and the sacred path of be tending. And it also brought me to create community apothecary. And both of those things I can see now were a way in which I was seeking to deepen my personal economy inside of my ecologies. And both of those practices put me into a deepening of the ecological calendar and how to be in step and in rhythm with that. And I actually just realized that today. And also a deepening in dream tending work, which was a way in which I was learning to also access ancestral threads, and a deepening of weaving and my own fragments into a place of wholeness, another way of listening, another way of engaging, and engaging with my landscape, dreaming with the natural world around me, the land, and so dream tending was another piece for me of self-sourcing and finding direct connection with the landscape, with my ancestry, and with my own self, my own heart, my own journey. So the next song that I want to share is called Liminal, and it's a song that I wrote when a chapter ended, and it was very disorienting. My life was oriented in a certain way, and it was centered in a certain way, and the nucleus shifted, and I had to reorient, and I didn't really know what was happening or how to do it. And so this song Liminal is about that space in between. And it also, I realized later, in our pollinator garden, sometimes we'll find the monarch caterpillars and protect them. And so it's given me the opportunity to really sit for hours and watch just how the caterpillar does it, turns into chrysalis, and to really feel into that process. And so I realized that the 4 different phases of this song really correspond to what I witnessed in the monarch's experience and my own empathetic projection onto it. And so the piece that I want to name with this is in building those pathways of how to enter in and to be willing to bear witness and to feel in order to heal. Container is really important. And many of us know this, but every creature in nature who goes through metamorphosis or shedding of a skin creates a cocoon or a chrysalis or goes to the spaces between the rocks to find a place, because it's very interesting, the paradox of how it is one of the most vulnerable places, yet it is the powerful place of regeneration in the life cycle. So this is called Liminal, and I also call it Ode to the Monarch. In space, what is up, what is down? Does time move in a line or circle around? When my feet can't feel the ground, can I hold your hand? Will you hold my hand for now, for as long as I need? Backwards, forwards, stories, old armor keeps unraveling. Grasping, losing grip, feel scared but feel so free. I expand into possibility. Can I shed this skin? Will you see me anew again and again, as many times as it takes? In the space after a cycle finds its end, emptied, curious, nothing to defend. I breathe into this formless trend. Can I feel this free? Will you breathe here with me for now, for as long as it lasts? When it's time, new vision will arise. Do I dare to let it flood inside? My desire burning is my guide. Can I trust this fire? Will you watch me soar higher and higher? Oh, as high as I'd like.
Hmm.
So there's, in the pathways of finding our way into our heart and tending that garden, tending the soils of that garden, tending the waters of that garden. One of the places that I find that can be really a big hang up is shame, and the poison that shame can become in a garden. the way that it can compact the soil and harden the soil. And it can start to, and in that compacted soil, it's really kind of impossible to plant new seeds. It's really hard for them to take root inside of that. And I want to speak in particular about the kind of shame that that occurs when we feel that we have broken our vows, when we have trespassed, when we have done harm against another, when we have betrayed ourselves or others, when we've betrayed our own hearts, when we feel that we've betrayed the earth and our vows to her. The kind of shame that can exist there that we might not even know is always there. And in this time where we're really needing to come to terms with, to bear witness to the harm that we've caused to the earth, to our human family, that we have caused and that our ancestors have caused. I feel it's really important to bring resiliency to that very place, because if we can't meet ourselves there and companion ourselves there, then it's the pain of that means we're just going to leave again, and or become very defensive and trying to protect that place that feels so ashamed. So I just want to offer in this concept of self-companioning that is meaningful for me. And it's in the realm of self-forgiveness. It's in the realm of self-acceptance and self-compassion. This place where I'm willing to bear witness and I'm willing to feel the impact of that choice and the harm that it's done. And it's so scary and it's so vulnerable. And I'm not sure if I'm going to make it through that. To have this other part that can self-companion. And I love the root word of the roots of the word companion. Kam is with, and pani is bread. And so it really means to break bread together. And so how I experience that in myself is this place where it feels unbearable to feel that the place where I have betrayed. And if I can bring my self-companioning there, like, yeah, yes, that's a choice you made, and that's the impact. Let's go sit. Let's go break bread together. Let's feel what we need to feel here. Let's see what we need to do to repair. And let's keep trying. And I love you, and we're going to keep trying. I find that to be a really potent place, and I sometimes see my hands do that. This place that is so vulnerable, so afraid. So afraid. I think part of why the companioning feels important to me is because that might be a place where I might abandon because I feel so ashamed. And so to meet myself there, I'll walk with you. I'm going to keep walking with you. We're going to keep feeling this, and we're going to keep walking. And we're going to sit and we're going to break bread. And we're going to feel it. And we're going to decide what we need to do to repair. And we're going to keep walking. And I love you. I know I already said this, but it's really important. It's really important to find ways to have resiliency in that place, because if shame takes over, it's a surefire way that we're going to continue in the same pattern. So this here, to me, leads to the capacity for a seed to really take root inside, and for that spring of our hearts to keep self-renewing, to keep returning. So I'm going to share this song. The words come from Rumi, but the song melody comes from a group called Shimshai. Come, come, whoever you are, wander isn't a caravan of despair, 'cause it doesn't matter if you've broken your vows 1,000 times before. Come again, come, yet again, come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, and come, come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair, 'cause it doesn't matter if you've broken your vows 1,000 times before. Come again, come, come again, come again, come. I find that there's so much resiliency in the practice of repair and forgiving ourselves over and over and over again, so we can continue on with the effort. We can keep walking, because that's what's going to really serve where we're trying to go. So I have 2 more pieces that I want to share, and the first one is a rhythm. It's a rhythm. It's a Southern Italian rhythm, but its roots go back farther than that. And this is a rhythm that has had different ways that it has served the culture over time. The roots of it goes back to some of the early rites, the Eleusinian rites, those ecstatic rites that were rites of regeneration, that ritually, theatrically shared the death, the underworld, the sacred union, and the rebirth and the resurrection. It played out that drama and offered an opportunity for individuals and communities to renew themselves, along with an understanding that it renewed the landscape. Over time, many of these ways were dismissed, cut out, taken away, but these rhythms continued in some of the pockets of southern Italy through the devotion to the Black Madonna. And the people still use song and ecstatic dance and drum and food and community as a devotional act. And these rhythms also have served even through the Middle Ages, now that you had more oppression from society, to be a liberation rhythm for those that fell into depression or psychosis. They would play this as a healing rhythm to help revive the person and to clear the blockages, to clear the poisons. They call it the pizzica tarantata because it is the bite of the spider, and it is saying that we are clearing the poisons of the oppression to liberate this dear soul and to revive their sensual, embodied, vital self. And so it served in that way. And in learning this rhythm, I integrated it into my own practices, but created a song that felt really connected to me and my landscape and my community, so that we could carry on the rhythm, but weave it into our context. And so I'm going to share the rhythm, and I'm going to sing the song in Italian, and then I'm going to sing the recreated version, the community version here. I'm moving because the tambourine is very loud. So I'm going to scoot back. This is a tamora, a Southern Italian tambourine. This is the Black Madonna of Montserrat. And so... Okay, I'm going to close out with my last song. And this song is a lineage song, a song of my mother line. It's the song that has three parts. The first part is my grandmother, Maria, my mother, Rosaria, and myself. There's three sections to the song. It's a story song, and it speaks of my grandmother leaving Sicily, being pregnant with my mom, me being an egg in my mama's ovary and my grandmother's belly on the boat here, and what it meant to leave home, to leave her mother that she never saw again. And for my mother to be first generation here, and the isolation of industrial culture, the dissolution of the extended family community, and what the survival mode that has to kick in for that. And then for me, and where that leaves me in my own trying to reweave this sense of having a severed root system and finding myself here. And it's about the prayers that we weave for each other through the circumstances that we can't control. And the song is called Maria. And the Sicilian part that you'll hear me sing is the Rosary prayer in Sicilian, or a portion of it. I received this song actually when we went to my grandmother's memorial in upstate New York when she passed. And I was in the hotel room, and about 90% of this song just really landed in my lap with a guitar that my cousin had given me. That was my grandfather's guitar. Mother, hold me close. This may be the last time. I feel your heartbeat touching mine. She said the sea breeze calls me on to leave this land of strife. Babe, in my womb, I hold the seeds of new life. Her roots reaching across a vast ocean, driven by the promise of a dream, isolated by language and culture, her faith holding her together at the seams. Her mother's rosary prayers wrapped around her, offering her courage for the long journey ahead. Ave Maria, plena de gratia, prega per noi. Amen. And as she says goodbye to her home, the angels whispered to her heart, la 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 la, la 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 la, oh, la 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 la, la 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 la, oh, home is where they love you. Home is where you feel loved. where you feel loved. Your blood and bones are of this land. Life continues through your hands. Use them well to tend and sow. From your garden, love will grow. To my mother, her baby girl was born of this new land. Her mother's love, it passes through her hands. And she moved far away from her mother's home. She went to tend a garden of her own. Sometimes her eyes reveal that she feels so alone. Rejection of the ways of her ancestors. To be what the dream needed her to be. Years of tight belt superwoman training. Now her weary heart beckons her to see. Children grown, empty home, she wonders, is it time now to choose me? Her mother's rosary prayers wrap around her, offering her strength and softness. Ave Maria, plena de gratia, prega per noi. Amen. And as she cried, "Where is my home?" the angels whispered to her heart, "La la 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 la, la 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 la, oh, la 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 la, la 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 la, oh, home is where they love you. Home is where you feel loved. Home is where they love you. Home is where you feel loved. Your blood and bones are of this land. Life continues through your hands. Use them well to tend and sow. From your garden, love will grow. Then her baby girl was born, with her eyes full of tears. In her heart dwelled her mother's love and her fears. To her great mother she cried, "What is this life? I want to run away, but I won't, and my heart's open wide." desperation of severed roots, wandering estranged, seeking self, seeking soul, until she stopped and listened to her pain. There she found the stories of her ancestors. They were written in her bones. She wept for them and wrapped them in red ribbons, and in her own embrace began to find home. Ave Maria, plena de gratia, prega per noi. And the angels gathered round, and they whispered to her heart. La 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 la, la 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 la, oh, la 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 la, la 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 la, oh, home is where they love you. Home is where you feel loved. Home is where they love me. Home is where I feel loved. My blood and bones are of this land. Life continues through my hands. You use them well to tend, and so from my garden love will grow. I know, Ave Maria, Ave Maria, Ave Maria, Ave Maria.
Mhm. Nicole, I think you are exactly what we all needed for this moment and this afternoon. I was astounded by how many connections you have made with previous presentations today. It was like you weaved them all together, from the caterpillar to the bee tending to the reciprocity. So I want to thank you so much for that. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Are you willing to go into the water cooler for a few minutes if people have time for questions?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I'm going to post that link again. So let me just say to other people, we're going to take a 15-minute break, and we're coming back with Chad Bittler at 4 o'clock, who's going to be talking about how to build soil health through rotational grazing. So here comes the link to the water cooler. So much love for you, Nicole. Thank you so much. People were also asking about the dream tending workshop. And so I've given, is it on Heartbeat Learning Garden on your website? Is your invitation for your next?
That is actually something I'm doing with Manderla Arts. So it's manderlahive.net, manderlahive.net.
Okay, I will try and copy that.
I could
Can you do that? Yeah, that'd be great.
type that, I guess.
Yeah, you have some interest in this audience.
There you go.
Thank you.
Will I find the link to the waiting room? Should I go back to the email that you sent to find
I'm gonna put it right here.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming. Hold on.
I ended up at my mother's house today, actually, because my internet connection broke down last night. So I'm at my mother's house. And this is my grandmother's rose chair. So it's so funny how things go. It just
Yeah,
feels right.
absolutely. Okay, so thank you so much.
Thank
All
you.
right, we'll see you back
Okay.
at 4 o'clock. Thanks, Nicole. And look for Nicole in the water cooler.